this video demonstration, we are going to show you, I shouldn't say we, because just me, I will show you how to draw 5 circles and to demonstrate 5 different mark making techniques. One being pointillism or stippling, another one being hatching, cross hatching, scumbling, and another one called texting. So you should have a sheet of paper that looks like this. It's about 18 inches long. And how wide is this thing? And it's about 4 inches wide. You need to find a cup that you can draw circles. Now in our room, we have these painting cups. We use these all the time. And these are really good for getting your 5 circles. So let me get this going first. I want you to draw in pencil with these circles. Because I want you to be able to raise these up. So draw them light enough. I'm drawing mine a little dark, so hopefully you can see it. So I got 1, 2. But when you do it, I want you to draw it light, because a lot of times in drawing class, remember, you want to draw light until you're absolutely sure of a line. And in this case, we are going to want to go back and erase these lines. So you don't want to have that shadow showing from whatever you did. So this cup is perfect in terms of getting these 5, because you don't want them super small, but you don't want them so big you can't get it. So the diameter of this is 3 inches. So if you can find something that's between 2.5 and 3 inches, or 3 1/4 would probably even work, would be fine. So let's talk about your first one. Your first one is going to be the stippling technique. So stippling is where you have these series of small dots. Now for this demonstration, I'm going to use this fine point marker. You do have the ultra fine tip as well that looks like this. But just to get the point across on this one, we're mainly going to be using that fine tip. For your art project, you might end up using the other one, this one, because you might want to have a much smaller dots, because your artwork is only going to be like 9 inches by 12 inches. But what you do is you go in and you create all these little dots. Now, the way that I grade craftsmanship on this is, do your dots look like dots or commas? So this is a good dot, that's a comma. So I'm looking for those things that might have little tails on them. So I'm going to go in here. And my highlight is going to be, let me use a pencil for this. I'm going to draw dark so you can see it. Is that this area I'm going to leave completely white. And then I really want to kind of get an idea of where my, my grays start transitioning. I should have a pretty black right here, and then it gets light again. So wherever it's dark at in this area, I want to start spacing my dots out. And when it gets to the white area, it's not that it's just completely white. It's just that you might have, 1 or 2 or 3 dots inside of there. And then maybe nothing like directly in the very middle of it. So I'm going in, adding more dots. Now, out here it's supposed to be dark. So now I am trying to get a comfortable grip on my Sharpie and just filling in with dot after dot after dot after dot after dot. And there's my line right here I want to be careful about. Now, a lot of times when you have shapes, you can go right up to that edge, and that creates your new line. And then I would wait in about 5 minutes, and I would take my eraser and erase that out so you don't see that line anymore. Might have to be a little bit darker gray there. I'm not going to do this whole thing for this demonstration. I just want to do enough to kind of get the point across. And that'll probably be enough. Now, I want you to do at least half of this. So I'm going to draw a line. You don't have to. For you to get full credit, you would do this half on this one, just because this one's pretty intensive. I think a lot of students like using this one because it does look kind of cool. And this is your value scale, is that you have your black, you have your dark grays, your light grays, your super light grays, and then your white. Okay, so when I look at this and you have the circle drawn, draw your line across there, you can kind of see what that should look like. Okay, our next one, I'm going to switch over to our ultrafine because this one goes a little bit faster. This one is going to be, and I should label this. So this one is the pointillism or stippling. So pointillism or stipple, S-T-I-P-P-L-E. I am not a good speller. This one will be hatching. Okay, now with hatching, is again the same thing. So I'm going to take my pencil. I'm going to have a highlight here because this is like a ball. And I have another one that helps me kind of figure out where my grays are going to be at. Now hatching is closely spaced parallel lines. They're not crossing at all because that would be cross hatching. So what you do, and I've had students, I'm going to turn this one like this because it'll be easier for me to draw it, is I'm going to have a line. I'm going to try to keep this as straight as I can without using a ruler. I have had students use rulers in the past and they look amazing. Now here I'm getting into the gray area. I'm going over it more. As long as I am not crisscrossing like this, I can argue that this is still hatching. I'm going to focus on this side. So I want to get these lines in. I'm going to go in the white a little bit more. This is where you just kind of edit it as you see fit. And so this area is going to be my darker area. So I'm going to have more lines in there. So I want to get a few out here. And since this is my darker area, you can kind of see how fast I start going. Again, this is still hatching because I'm not crossing it. But you can start seeing how you can start getting the values by hatching pretty intensely along this dark area. Because your darker is like on my fingers, like tracing it. Because again, you're outside, usually you don't have a hard edge. And I come over on this side, do the same thing. Going a little bit more. And then I want to get this intense black again. This intense black over here. And you can start seeing how at some point, maybe like right in here is where you would start taking that down and completing that. Because I'd still have a hard amount of hatching here, and then in this area I just wouldn't have, I still have these main lines, but I would try to start spacing like I'm spacing them out here, while it'd be pitch black, along here. So on this one we'll do the same thing. This is real important for you to understand this part. So you are going to do a little more on this one. So I'm going to cross this one, maybe about here. So you don't have to do this end, but you can really get a good idea on how this should, so I can make sure that you understand how that should be working, kind of thing. So let's have that one there for the hatching. Okay, your next one is cross hatching. Take my pencil, again, my highlight, and then one of my gray lines that helps me kind of figure things out a little bit. This is a little on the small side. I'm gonna draw this a little bigger. Hopefully you can see it. Oh, it's about the size of a nickel or a quarter or something. Okay, so cross-hatching is another one that I've seen students use a lot, where you're actually gonna be crossing these. So I'm gonna have this one, I'm gonna curve a little bit more. So you have a little bit more flexibility on this to try to kind of duplicate how shapes or forms, I really should say forms, because forms are in a three-dimensional area. Again, I'm trying to stay away from that. But I can curve in these because I'm trying to follow, you know, the curve on the outside here. Because then I can come in, crosshatch here. This one you don't have as many lines or as many rules to follow like you had with this other one here, is because you're literally just kind of crossing things. And however you can end up doing that. Again, I might turn this around because my wrist, you know, has a curl on there. Actually, it'd be better if I did it this way. I'm going to focus on this area right now, though. So if you've noticed already, I'm following this line here on the outside, and I did not do that on this one, and I did not do that on this one. This will look weird on here. You should not have a straight line because this is a bunch of dots in this one. You know, and these are a bunch of lines, and it's really hard to get that. So it looks weird if you do that. On this one, it doesn't matter if I follow that line because these are all going to be kind of crossed. Again, I'm trying to stay away from this highlight area as I'm working on this. Yours might look very different than mine because there are a lot more flexibilities on this. I'm a little of a sloppier drawer when I'm working on stuff. But I do want to really focus in on this area to show you that you need to get this pretty intense with your black. These always look like miniature Death Stars to me when I do these. So I'm not at my black yet. I have a nice dark gray here, light gray, and white. I do not have my black yet. Because the black, I shouldn't see any specks of white. And I'm doing my best to rely on my cross-hatching technique to hit all those lines. Or hit those little specks and not start just going in and coloring like it's a coloring page. So again, we're learning 5 different techniques, and you have to apply. If you want to apply all of them, you can. Most people just land on 1 or 2. Okay, now this whole area here is going to be really dark like I have right here. We use a heavier paper when we do this project. It's like a mat board. It's called illustration board. So you won't rip through your paper when you start applying so much of this stuff down. So I think that's as far as I'm going to take it. And same thing, I'm going to kind of cross this way about like this. Kind of like the first one, so you can really focus on getting those, really show me that you understand the grays and things like that on that one. Okay. Our next one here is going to be called Our next one here is going to be called scumbling. So in scumbling, what you're going to do is, again, I have my highlight here. It's about size 1/4. And then my lines here help me figure out my grays a little bit and where my black's at. Is you just go in and you do this kind of a technique. So just kind of these random lines. Now I know in this area it's going to be real black. Same thing down here. And leaving a little bit of white on the outside. So you want to make sure you're not cross-hatching when you do this. You're not just all of a sudden doing this and like this, you know, but it's more of a organic, you know, kind of a feel. On that. So here it's going to be pretty intense. Let me define this here and this here a little more. So I'm not going to go in any more than that, at least not now. Not now. I'm not. You know, definitely in this area here, like I'm tracing out with my finger, like where my finger takes up, is where you want that intense black, and in here. Because in order for your piece to really pop out well, is you have to have contrasts. Where you have these areas that have these really great blacks, and you have these areas that have these really great whites. And they just play off each other so well. And the pieces that don't have that, where you just look at them and they look overly white, or you look at them and they look overly black, you know, leaving the paper there is part of the whole design process in terms of trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I think I'm going to be kind of done with this here, because I just want to give you an idea on how it should kind of look when you're done with it. This one won't take you as long. So kind of like with that hatching, I'm going to have you do a little bit more. So you don't have to do this side. So this is the side that you need to be doing, kind of thing, to really, again, show me that kind of that white, you know, on the outside is called like a secondary shadow. You know, definitely white in here, light gray, medium gray, and then like a black is what you're doing. So then that's what these techniques are supposed to do. So you don't have a pencil. Of which you can go in and you can shade and you can press down hard and light again. You have a pen that you have to use to be able to create those shadows and be able to do that. So our last one here is called texting. Again, I'm going to have my circle here. I'm going to have this part right here. And again, this should be the size of 1/4. And you should be okay with that. Again, that doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be kind of close. So our next thing is that on this one, you can choose a word or you can choose a phrase, and it's a matter of taking those and overlapping them. And the more you write that word, the more darker that area is going to be. So like one that I usually kind of say in class is like I would just say the word love and hate, because you have, you know, an extreme on both sides with that. So what I'm going to do, again, is here's my area here, is I'm just going to write in cursive. I know some people don't know how to write in cursive anymore, and you can just print if you want to. And you can start turning your page. I'm going to try to turn this. And changing the size of your font when you do this. I'm gonna bring this back along here. Now I'm using hate. That was probably said hat. I'm going along here. And then we will be going along here. So I'm trying to get a nice light area along here, a dark area along this area, and then a light along here again. So this is where you're really going to have to overlap your lettering for this to work well. So you can already kind of start seeing that it's getting much darker in this area. Now it's up to you as the artist to decide, do you want the people to be able to read these well, or are you going to want to have it so, fancy written that it's almost next to impossible, for you to do. Anytime you add lettering inside of our work, people are going to associate that with something. And so whatever you have for, in this sense, I'm using the word love and hate, and if you draw, like a flower or a dog or a car, or something, they're going to be wondering, like, why'd you use those words? So that is something you really need to put a little bit of thought into when you start figuring all this stuff out. Is like, what am I going to say with this piece? Now, since this is your tattoo that you're designing, and you have those 3 images, you're going to be kind of thinking about what they relate to, and you like this texting technique to create your gradients. You already have some things you can kind of work on in terms of trying to figure out, what word helps bring all that stuff together. This one is the same thing as with our pointillism as well as our scumbling, where it doesn't take a long time. So again, I'm going to kind of go back to the scumbling one, where I'm going to have you do about 2/3 of it. You don't have to do the other third, but I just wanted you to demonstrate how you can go from this dark gray to this black, to this dark gray, to light gray, to this white, because that is going to be a large part of gray to show that. So other than that, good luck on that. And then again, for the project itself, you have 5 things you've now practiced, and it's up to you to decide on which of these you really like. If you have a hard time deciding, sometimes it's nice to ask a friend and see what they think you're best at. But just because you're really good at a technique doesn't mean it's your favorite. So it doesn't matter to me which one you use, or if you want to use a combination of them, that's completely up to you as the artist and designer in this project. So if you have any questions, again, please let me know. Otherwise, good luck on this sample.